Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this from and how old you are. Enjoy the story. My name is Jake Mitchell. I'm 41 years old. For over 10 years, I ran a mobile emergency service. Locks, doors, alarms, working around Atlanta and the surrounding areas. When someone's pipes burst at night or they can't get into their house during a snowstorm, they call me. I always showed up, and that's how I built my reputation. Reliable? Straightforward? No, nonsense. The irony was that for years I was fixing other people's disasters while not noticing how my own family was falling apart. That evening started like any other. I was pumping water out of a basement on Peachtree Street when I got a text from Jessica. Working late, don't wait up. Love you. Same message for the 4th time that week, and it was only Wednesday. When I got home after midnight, only the porch light was on. I parked the service van and noticed her car wasn't there. Something twisted in my stomach. I opened the door with my key. The house was strangely quiet, not messy, but it felt like foreign hands had touched our things. The throw pillow from the couch was missing. The mug she drank her morning coffee from wasn't in its usual spot. Small details that an ordinary person wouldn't notice, but my work had trained me to see what doesn't add up. I went upstairs. The house seemed to hold its breath. Too much silence. Her jewelry box was tightly closed. She never closed it that way unless she was hiding something. Then I heard a car pull up. I quickly changed into pajamas, lay down, and pretended to sleep. The front door opened quietly, as if she'd rehearsed it. Her heels clicked carefully, unhurried. She stood in the bedroom doorway, a silhouette against the hallway light, watching me for a long time. Then she whispered, "Tomorrow everything changes. Jake, I'm sorry it has to be this way." I didn't move. She thought I was asleep, but I heard every word. In the morning, Jessica was gone. There was a note on the kitchen table. "Went to Mum's for a few days. We'll talk when I get back." But I already knew this wasn't about visiting her mother. She'd taken too many things packed like she was going away for a long time, and some things she never left the house without before were still there. I decided to find out where she'd been spending all those late nights. 3 days passed. No calls, no messages, silence. I called her mother in Miami. The first time she answered, said Jessica hadn't arrived yet but was expected. The second call sounded confused. "Jake, isn't she with you? She said yesterday she wasn't coming because of work." Work? Right. I was sitting in my van outside a client's house, staring at my phone, when a Facebook message came from someone with no photo and a fake name, Kevin Walsh. "You need to know the truth about your wife. Jessica, Hampton Inn, room 412. Today, 9 p.m. sharp. Bring a camera." My hands shook. That cold knot that had been growing for months was there again. I wanted to delete it, block it, pretend I hadn't seen it, but I couldn't. I finished my calls early and went home. The house was empty, dead. At 8:30, I got in my car and drove downtown. The Hampton Inn stood on Peachtree Street, glass and marble, a place for businessmen or those who wanted to stay unnoticed. I waited a bit, then went in like I was a guest. In the elevator, my heart pounded. I reached the 4th floor and stood outside room 412. Voices, laughter, her laughter. Through a gap in the curtains, I saw Jessica in a red dress, the same one we'd bought for our anniversary. She'd said it didn't fit her anymore. On the bed sat a younger guy, muscular, confident, pouring wine into her glass. She looked at him the way she used to look at me, back when I was everything to her. I didn't take any pictures, didn't knock, just stood there for 10 minutes, watching, memorizing how she laughed, how she took off her wedding ring and set it on the nightstand. When I got home, I didn't go in right away. I sat in the car, looking at the house that now seemed foreign, empty, fake. Then I went inside, opened my laptop, created a new email account, and sent myself the hotel, address, room number, and time, insurance, so I wouldn't forget. Because everything was clear now. The marriage was over. She just hadn't said it out loud yet. Jessica came back Thursday evening, driving up in her car like nothing had happened. I watched from the kitchen. She sat in her car for 5 minutes, checking herself in the mirror, doing something on her phone. Then she got out and knocked instead of using her key. I opened the door. She smiled uncertainly, forced. "Hi, honey." "How's your mum?" I asked. "Oh, you know how she is, always complaining about something." She put her bag by the stairs and headed upstairs. "I'm going to shower, then we can chat, okay?" But I already knew everything. While she was gone, I'd called the bank where we had our joint account, said I wanted to check some charges. Hotel, restaurant I'd never go to, too expensive. Lingerie, from a store she'd never even looked at before. "Jessica," I said when she was already on the stairs. "We need to talk, now." She froze. "Maybe later? I'm tired from the drive." Number now. We sat at the kitchen table across from each other like strangers. I put the bank statement in front of her. "Explain this." She glanced at it without blinking. "I treated myself. Is that forbidden?" "Hampton Inn? Is that Miami?" "Yeah, Mum wanted to see how they remodeled the lobby. We stopped for coffee." Every answer was automatic, rehearsed. I didn't raise my voice, just said, "I saw you, room 412, red dress, with him." She went pale instantly. The mask slipped. "You followed me?" "Someone told me where to look." She jumped up. "This is crazy, Jake. You're losing your mind." I looked her in the eyes with the same voice I use with clients who don't want to pay. She sat down. "I'm leaving to think. When I come back, we'll discuss everything." "Sure, go ahead." That night, while she packed, I made a list. Accounts to close, documents to transfer to my name, locks to change. She left in the morning without saying goodbye. I watched from the workshop window as she loaded suitcases, more than needed for a few days. She wasn't going to think. She was leaving, just calling it something else. An hour later, I started taking action. First, I went to our bank, the same one where we'd opened a joint account 8 years ago. "I want to close the joint account," I said, putting the documents on the counter. "My wife and I are restructuring our finances. Will your spouse be signing too? She's on a business trip, but here's her signature. I can handle this." 20 minutes later, I walked out with a check for the full amount, $130,000. Everything Jessica expected to find when she returned. Except she wouldn't find it. Then utilities, electricity, gas, water. "Please transfer all contracts to my name. My wife is moving out soon." By noon, everything in the apartment was registered to me alone. At 2 p.m. sharp, a locksmith arrived to change the locks. "Break in the other day. Security first," I explained. He nodded wisely. Most people wait until it's too late. While he worked, I gathered everything that reminded me of Jessica. Clothes, cosmetics, jewelry. Packed it in boxes, loaded it into my van, and took it to a storage unit on the other side of town. Cash payment, 6 months in advance. No paperwork, no traces. When the locksmith left, I walked through the apartment again. It felt different, cleaner, freer, like even the walls could breathe. That evening, I called her brother. We hardly talked, but he had a right to know. "Marcus, this is Jake. I wanted to tell you, Jessica and I are getting divorced." Silence. "What? Why?" "She's been with someone else for a while now. When she comes back, she'll probably tell you I went crazy. But you should know the truth." "Damn, Jake, I had no idea." "Neither did I, until recently. When she calls you crying, just remember this conversation." After the call, I opened my black notebook. I'd been keeping it since I first sensed something was wrong, recording dates, addresses, receipts, screenshots, everything. If it came to court, I'd have a file that would make the judge's eye twitch. But I wasn't planning on court. I was planning to disappear. And when she returned, she'd learn that a person named Jake Mitchell no longer existed. 3 days after she left, I barely left the workshop. I drank black tea and sorted through papers. Then the phone rang. Unknown number. "Is this Jake Mitchell?" A woman's voice, maybe 70s, slight southern accent. "Yes. Who's this?" "My name is Dorothy Patterson. We need to talk about your wife." No threat in her voice, no plea. Just wait. "I'm listening." "Not over the phone. Meet me at Orbit Cafe on College Avenue, 1 hour. I hesitated, but that familiar knot in my stomach wouldn't let me ignore it. I arrived. She sat in the corner, grey-haired with a straight back, hands wrapped around her cup like she was holding an anchor. "You're younger than the others," she said when I sat down. "The others?" She handed me a folder. My grandson works at the hotel. He keeps track of your Jessica's visits. Same room, 412, but each time with different men. I opened the folder. Registration copies. Jessica Rodriguez, Jessica Smith, Jessica Chen, Jessica Anderson. My nephew David was married to her 3 years ago, Dorothy said quietly. She cleaned him out and disappeared. By the time he found her, she was already living with someone else. Wait, you're saying what I think you're saying? She's not just a cheater, she's a con artist, a specialist in family schemes. My hands shook. Real name is Jessica Santos. At least one of the real ones. She has at least 4 identities, maybe more. I stayed silent. You know why I'm telling you all this? I nodded. Because David couldn't handle it. He hanged himself. I swore to myself that if anyone else ended up in her path, I'd intervene. So here I am. I left there with that folder in my hands, feeling like I was holding evidence of my own shame. At home, I started searching for real, not casually, not between jobs, but methodically. Behind her jewelry box, I found a key taped to the back. It opened a metal box hidden deep in the closet. Inside, passports with her photo, different names, bank cards, statements, accounts worth millions. The woman I'd lived with for 3 years didn't exist. She was an image, a mask. Jessica Rodriguez didn't exist. But now I knew for sure that Jake Mitchell would soon cease to exist too. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the workshop, laying out everything I'd found like evidence at a crime scene. Because that's what it was, a crime. I hadn't just been betrayed, I'd been robbed, not of money, but of life. 3 years I'd never get back. In the morning, I called a man named Michael, former cop, now private investigator. He helped with cases that required silence and experience. Mike, need help. My wife isn't who she claimed to be. This isn't just cheating, it's pure fraud. We met at his office. I laid out everything, hotels, fake names, documents, hidden accounts. He listened silently, occasionally making notes. Seriously, you've got marriage fraud, identity theft, attempted financial gain here, possibly more than one case. What do you want? He finally asked. Court? Put her away? Number. Then what? I want her to disappear, on her own. Michael nodded. Then we'll do it quietly. I'll submit requests, block her fake profiles, make it so she can't rent or cross borders, not officially, but effectively. And you prepare your part. I knew what part that was. I went to the bank where she'd tried to open a second account. Suspicion of forged documents, I told the manager. Compare these passports, names, signatures. The employee went white. We're required to report this to the Federal Reserve and police. Do what you have to, just block her access. That evening, I organized everything I'd found into one neat folder, placed it on the kitchen table in plain sight, labeled, for Jessica, one last courtesy. Then I changed the locks again, just in case. She'd return and find that she no longer existed, not for me, not for the bank, not for the city, and no one would listen to her explanations because there'd be no one left to listen. Several days passed. Jessica didn't appear, but on Monday, the police called. Is this Jake Mitchell? Yes. This is Detective Lisa Chen, APD. We need to talk about your wife. My blood ran cold. Did something happen to her? She's alive, but there are questions. Can you come in? The office smelled of old coffee and paper. Lisa placed a photograph in front of me. Recognize this? It was Jessica, but with different colored hair, and it wasn't me next to her. The photo was taken in Jacksonville 6 months ago. House fire, burned down. She filed a large insurance claim. The husband on record was someone named David. We were already married then. The detective opened a folder. According to our information, she was married to you, to him, and at least 2 others. Fictitious marriages, forged documents, fraud. She looked at me. But that's not all. A copy of an insurance policy landed on the table. Life insurance. Insured, me. Beneficiary, her. Amount, almost $1.5 million. I never signed this. Policy was taken out 8 months ago. Forged signature. We found correspondence discussing how to stage accidents. Lisa looked me in the eyes. She wasn't just planning to steal your money. She was planning to kill you." I leaned back in my chair. My head buzzed. The woman I ate breakfast with, slept next to, made plans with, had been planning my death. Where is she now? Fled. Phones off, bank cards inactive. We assume she realized we were onto her. I shook my head. I have no idea where she is, and I don't want to know. That wasn't a lie. I really didn't know, but I knew for sure she wasn't coming home, and no one would be waiting for her. I gave Lisa everything I'd found. Passports, cards, statements. She just shook her head. "You have no idea how much help you've given us. This is a federal case." I left the station and felt, for the first time in months, emptiness, calm like snow after a blizzard. 2 weeks passed. Jessica, or whatever her name was, had vanished. The investigation continued, but it no longer concerned me personally. A couple of months later, Michael called. They caught her. Where? Mexico. Airport. Trying to fly to Venezuela. Fake passport. In her luggage. Another wig. Cash. SIM cards. Classic. All her schemes involved at least 17 victims. The charges in the case are such that no one will give her less than 20 years. But I felt no joy, no anger, no relief. I was simply free. 6 months later, I sold everything. House, workshop, car. I moved to Colorado, bought a cabin by the forest, legally changed my name. Jake Mitchell disappeared. Now I'm Max Thompson. Max was never married to a con artist. Max makes custom furniture by hand. With soul, the workshop stands behind the house, next to a stream. Clients are local, kind, simple people. I'm booked 6 months in advance. A year later, a woman walked into the workshop. Grey hair, confident movements. I'd like a rocking chair for my granddaughter, something that can be passed down to her grandchildren. We'll make it. Her name was Linda, a former teacher, a widow, warmth in her eyes and peace in her voice. We weren't looking for love. We just felt good together. Sometimes we sit on the porch, drink tea, and stay silent. "Max," she asked once, "why did you move here? You could work anywhere." I looked at the horizon where the sun was setting behind the mountains. I wanted to forget. I wanted to become someone else. "Aren't you afraid I'll find out who you used to be?" I shrugged. "Aren't you afraid I'll find out who you used to be?" She smiled. "None of us are who we seem. What matters is who we decide to become." That night, I looked at the stars for a long time and realized I'm not angry about the past. I'm grateful for who I became. Jake is gone, and thank God. Max lives, and he's real. Thanks for watching. If the story touched you, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to write in the comments where you're from and how old you are. We're very interested to know.